Hello friends, welcome to Zenier Coding Web Development Platform. In today's session, we are going to create a topic of to-do list. As we already know, to-do list it is nothing but where we will be making the important points or whatever the steps which we want to do on the day activity. In the sense, we will be making like a highlighter. Maybe we can consider like a sticky note or like a paper basis where it is a reminder whatever the things that we want to do on the activity basis that we can use in the either in mobile or in paper activity. This particular thing we can also create on the HTML by using very simple logic on the JavaScript. So maybe I'm just want to give a quick intro about the to-do list. So if we want to use the to-do list in this sense, we require the app or a paper. And we want to think initially what we want to do on the day basis, and we need to assign the due dates. So we need to revise the to-do list activities dailies. So at least we need to calculate or we need to assign the task on daily basis of 3 to 5. So we need to put a task on the to-do list and not for the goals. So maybe I can explain how we can create under this platform what are the things we can add and how this can be useful in the day-to-day basis. For example, in today activity, I need to complete video. So I'm adding this activity. So you can able to see over here under the to-do list already I have done some activities like pay bill, go shopping. If you want to edit, you can edit today, or if you I'm just making as click. So it is, if you are done with the click, in the sense you are mentioning that the activity is completed. Okay, so if you want to delete, you can delete over here, or else if you want to again edit, you can edit. So I hope to-do list it is very practicable, which we want to follow on daily basis, because without setting the daily activities we cannot achieve anything. So let me see how we can execute this particular thing on the Xenia platform. So under the to-do list on the HTML part, I'm going to add the title of to-do app. So next I'm going to make their link relative of a style sheet where I'm adding a style.css. So under this, maybe we can add the division class for the body. Division class, which is equivalent to container. I'm setting as container. So again, I'm going to add the paragraph. So under the paragraph, I'm going to add the label. Label for is equivalent to new task. So maybe it is your wish, you can add according to your plan. I'm going to set here as my demo. I'm just going to recreate that. So I need to input this, where I'm using as input ID is equivalent to new task, and their type should be is nothing but text, and I'm making their type so my type is text. And now I'm going to close this button, and I'm going to add as again I'm going to add the button. So I'm going to add with the title of add. So now I'm going to close the button. You can able to see over here. So next I'm going to delete this part. It doesn't require, since we can add any type of item. So it is it doesn't have any list basis. We are not going to follow on the list basis. So I'm making here to be as under the H3. I'm making that heading as to do, and since the list is unorganized, unlisted one, I'm making as UL IDs, which is equivalent to incomplete task. Incomplete task. So next under this, I'm making the list as input type, where I'm going to use the checkbox. So maybe we need to open this tag. Yes, now it is right. So where I'm going to use a checkbox. After using the checkbox, I'm just closing. I'm going to create a label which is pay bills. Pay bills. I'm closing this label, and I'm closing this label. Again, I'm going to create one more input type. Maybe we can try on this next line. So under this input type, again I'm typing as, which is text. Just again I'm opening with a button. I'm just repeating this process. So where I'm adding as bill, these are the mandate things which I want to add on every month on the to-do list. That is what I'm just initially creating on the HTML part itself. So next I'm going to create my input type is equivalent to text. Again I'm closing. Again I'm opening the button, where the button is to be insert. So I'm using the button class. It should be edit, so it should not have some restrictions. So for this I'm using the edit option. I'm making as edit. Next I'm closing this button. So this button has been closed. So next I want to make a list class. Under the list class, I'm making here as edit mode. So under the list of the class, I'm adding as edit mode, which is of input type. I'm creating as the checkbox. Checkbox. Again, I'm creating a label which is go shopping. So I'm as I defined, I'm going to create the bills and the go shoppings are mandate, that are all creating in this. So I'm just repeating the same, and this is also want to be processed under the my button classes. So next I'm going to create my delete part.
So under the delete part, I'm using this same thing. I'm going to repeat. Let me try. So I'm type the go shopping. So next under the go shopping, yes, under the go shopping, I'm just closing the label. After this, I want to use input type, which is the text need to be insert, and the value is nothing but go shopping. Go shopping. Again, I'm going to insert the button class of. This also want to be my edit. So next I'm going to use the edit, and I'm closing this button. Again, I'm opening a button. Under this button class, I'm going to create a delete. So next on the continuation, I'm going to create under the unordered list. After this, I'm going to create my H3. So under the H3, which is I'm making as completed, this is my next one, heading tag, where here also I'm making their unordered list. Unordered list of IDs. So whatever the task is completed, it need to mention over here. So completed task. So I'm just closing. Next on the list basis, again I'm going to use one more tag, which is input type, which is checkbox, and I'm mentioning as it's checked or not, and I'm closing this label, where I'm setting as see the doctor. So again I'm closing this label, and I'm using my input type is text, and I'm closing this button. So again under I'm creating my button class, which is edit option is I'm going to use, and I'm closing this button, where I'm using the button class, which is delete. So under the delete, I'm going to use the delete. Next I'm closing this button. So we need to add the scripting part. To add the scripting part, like script, my source is, my script type I'm adding as text or JavaScript. Text or JavaScript. Next I'm making their source is app.js. So next I'm closing my script part. I'm going to create the JS part for this particular function. JS I'm making as app. So next on the JavaScript part, I'm going to do the document that is can be accessed in the console with the document window. For this, I'm going to use a tree from the top, and maybe we have some cases no that user intersection does not provide the correct result. Maybe for this the solution is nothing but we need to add interactive so the user can manage the daily task. Next, we need to bring the things down to be in a smaller step and take each step at a time. So we need to handle user intersection is what the start and code execution part. For this, I'm going to declare the function here as variable task input. This is a task input which should be given from the user. So for this, I'm making as document get element by id. So it should add our new task, and I'm adding a new task. Next we need to add a button for this. For this I'm making as add button. Under this button it also should get from the user get elements by tag name. So again this comes under button, and it should start from the index of 0. This is the first button. Next we need to process the incomplete. This is maybe the inbuilt functions or we are going to create, which is nothing but incomplete task holder, where it should process the document dot get element by id, which is incomplete task. This is nothing but the unordered list that we are for this we are processing. Next I'm going to add one more variable which is completed task holder. So maybe I'm here, there is a mistake. I need to declare with the variable. Okay, so under the variable I'm making as completed task holder, which is document dot get element by id, and this is nothing but completed task. So next we need to create a new task for the list item, where I'm making as variable checkbox. Under this the document should create an element which is done by the user, that is input. Next I'm going to create the list item. Variable list item is equivalent to document dot create element, and it comes under the list. Next I'm going to create the input for the checkbox, where I'm adding a checkbox which is equivalent to document, and it create an element which is from the input. So next I'm going to create, that is the variable for label, where for this it's a document, and this is also the create element, which is also the input, where the text button should be want to edit. For this I'm using this function. Next I'm going to use for variable edit input. For this also it is nothing but document dot create element, and this is also comes under the input. Next I'm going to create for variable for edit button. For edit button, this is also comes under the document and create element, which is button. There is a correction here over here, which is nothing but this is okay, this is input, and here I have to change it as label, and I'm changing as label. Now it's fine. So next we need to create the button for the delete. For the delete I'm going to use the same thing, that is variable delete button, where it should create from the document, and it create an element which is process the button, and next I'm going to process a label for inner HTML, where under my inner HTML it took my string. For this I'm using as task string, and next making the each elements need to be appending. So appending, as we know, it's a joining process we have to use. Checkbox type is equivalent to checkbox next I'm going to use the edit input dot type is equivalent to, which is in the text base. So again I'm going to process the edit button for inner HTML. Edit button for my inner HTML is nothing but edit. So where it on the inner text code doesn't it has some special character and the HTML does not. So next I'm going to use the edit button for the class name. This is also comes under the edit. Next I'm processing for the delete button under the inner HTML is delete. So again I'm going to create for the delete button for my class name, which is also delete. So next we need to append in this one. So next I'm going to make under this, I'm going to the process of editing the existing task that we need to do, and also we have to process the appending process. So initially first we complete the abunding, that is we need to add the list item. So under the list item I'm making as abundant child of checkbox. So whatever the things we are processing, it could be add in this. So next we need to process of the list item with abundant child of label. So next I'm going to move for the list item of abundant edit input, edit button and delete button. These are all I'm going to create it. So where I have created the checkbox, label, edit input, edit button and delete button and return list item. Similarly, we need to add the task for the function. For this, I'm going to use the console.log add task, and I'm created one more variable, that is list item, where we need to create a new task element and task input of value. So again, I need to abandon the list item to the incomplete task holder, where it is going to abandon with the child list item and blind task event of list item and task completed. So next I'm going to process the task input dot value is a empty value, empty spaces. So again I'm moving for my editing of an existing task. Under this I'm making their variable of edit task equivalent to function, and I need their output as edit task, and it should also show my output as console.log change edit to save. So next I'm going to process of my variable list item, that is this parent node should have an edit input, and the list item should be as a query selector of input type, and it's equivalent to my text. So next I'm going to add the label, where my label of list item, it should select from the query selector of label. So next I'm adding my one more variable, that contain class, where on the list item it should contains edit mode. So if contain class, that is if the class of the parent is edit mode, I'm making their condition that label inner text is edit input value, else I'm making as edit input dot value as inner text. So list item of class list dot toggle of edit mode, this is nothing but where we want to toggle edit mode on the parent. So next I'm going to create for the delete task. Under the delete task I'm making as a variable delete task, which is as function. I'm making their output. I'm repeating the same process, and list item is this parent node. Since it is an unordered list, I'm making as a parent node, and if I want required, we are using the inbuilt function of remove child. So that particular list will be removed from the list. So next we need to process a mark task completed, where I'm using as variable task completed as a function, and abandon the task list item to the completed task. So next I'm going to make the variable list item as this parent node, that is completed task holder dot abandon child, and making as an event. So finally, I'm going to make the variable task as incomplete. If it is an incomplete, then my output have to show as an input incomplete task. And I'm making their variable to the list of incomplete task holder, that also should be joined with my list item. So next I'm processing for my AJAX request, where my AJAX request, it is nothing but it should show my output as an AJAX result. This gives to hold it all together, and we need to click the handler to add the task function. For this I'm going to add button on click and add task, add button dot add event listener on click add task, and again I'm going to add button add event listener of click AJAX request. So next I'm going to process a variable of bind task event, where under the function of list task list item and checkbox event handler, where it should show my output as console, that is bind the list items events. So next we need to process the list items for the children. For this, I'm making my checkbox is equivalent to task list item, which should select from the query selector of input type checkbox and edit button of task list item of query selectors of button edit. So next I'm going to process a variable delete button of task list item dot query selectors. So again, I'm going to make bind this edit button to the edit where I'm using as edit button dot on click equal to edit task, delete button dot on click is equal to delete task. Now I'm going to check the box on change, which is checkbox eventer. Next I'm going to make for the incomplete task holder for UI list item for each item. So I'm making their initialization for variable I is equivalent to 0, and if it is less than the incomplete task holder dot children, then the value should be incremented, and it should for the further process to bind task event incomplete task holder, where it should show as task completed. Next, we need to process a completed task holder for the UI list item. For this, I'm going to use a for variable I equal to 0 and I less than completed task holder dot children, and I'm increasing the value. Next, I'm going to process as bind task event, and it is making as complete task holder. It shows as a task incomplete. So we have done the JavaScript part. Let me see how whether the coding is required. I mean, styling part is required or not. So next for the CSS part, I'm going to make their body as background. Background I'm setting as ash ff, and I'm making their color as ash 33 and making their font family as Lato, and sans serif. Next I'm going to create for their class of container. So under the container I'm making their display as block and width as 400 pixel and margin as 100 pixel, and I'm making is auto to be 0. So next for the unordered list of UL, where I'm making the margin is 0 and padding could be 0. Next I'm making their list of where I'm making their flow to be left. Again I'm making their list of H3 clear of. I'm making their clear to be both. And list style could be none. So next I'm making their input comma button, where I'm making their outline as none. So next I'm making their button. For this I'm making their background as none and border as 0 pixel. And border to be 0 pixel. So if required we can add the cursor. cursor. I'm just adding the cursor as pointer. Next I'm going to process for button hover. For this I'm making the color as ash 33. So again I'm making for their H3. Under the H3 their label is equivalent to for new task. I'm making their color, which is according to my wish I'm setting, and making their font width as 700. If required, we can set the font size, border, bottom, padding and text transform. Again I'm processing for the input type, which is equivalent to my text. For this also I'm setting there, I'm making their margin as 0 and font size, maybe I'm making font size as 18 pixel. In this also you can set the background color and font family and color based on your wish you can add. So next I'm going to make their that is for paragraph button hover, where I'm making their color, which is of ash FF. Maybe I'm using this D color. Okay, so I'm going to create for the list label input. Let me see after typing this one. So I have done my process. See, I have used the input task, and to take the task list the overflow is hidden and the padding is 20 and the border button is bottom is 1 pixel and input type is checkbox and margin is 0. Next I'm making their position as relative, list label as font size as 18 pixel, line height as 40 pixel and width as 237, and next I have done their padding to be 000, and I have done for the list of input type of text is width is 226 and the list of delete hover color is ash CF. Next for the completed task I have done the label of text decorations line through, and I have done the color. For edit task I have done for unordered list input text equal to text, type equal to text, and I have made their display as none. Next I have done for the UL of list edit mode, which is of input type, that is also I have done as a block. Edit mode of label I have done as a display none. So we have done the part. Maybe you can go through with the JS and JavaScript. Let me check on this. So I'm just editing on June month. Okay, so my editing is done. So it shows this task is completed. I'm just editing. Now I'm removing this checkbox, or you can delete this option if you want to add one more list video. I'm just adding, it is listing over here. You can again edit or you can delete. Yes, so this is a simple example of to-do list. I hope this session gives a clear picture of this HTML and CSS and JavaScript.